So let's start. Let me share my screen in case you guys don't remember it. Um, okay. Um, so um, so when we take refuge, let's remember the object of refuge, which is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddhas of who have come and go, who have come, who are present, who will come. So past, present, and future. The Buddhas of all those times, including all the gurus and all the people, virtuous friends, teachers who take the place of the Buddha because we don't have the merit to have been born during Shakyamuni Buddha's time or, to see the historical Buddha. But we have other gurus here now, so we take refuge in them. We take refuge in the teachings and all the members who support the teachings, who follow the teachings. So I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, so let's start. By the way, let me know if I have an air conditioner running, so because my room is kind of warm. So let me know if you can't hear me. But anyway, so let's start with a meditation. So let's take a comfortable posture. If you remember the 7-point Vairochana posture, if not, the most important thing is to have our back supported and straight. In other words, the natural curvature of the spine, and best to not be leaning against a chair or unfortunately my chair, I can't do that. But if you can, sit farther, up a little bit. And that's all to help the winds flow naturally in our channels. So we can do a short breathing meditation by focusing on the breath. If you're having trouble, you can concentrating, that is, you can try to clear out the blocking winds by doing the 9-round breathing meditation, where you take 3 breaths with your right nostril, 3 breaths with your left, and then 3 with both. So that's one approach. Another is to do a body scan from your foot all the way to the top of the head. If we think about our lives today, it's incredible how really fortunate we are. They're talking the scriptures of the 8 freedoms and the 10 fortunes. But even if we don't remember them so much, we have all our basic needs met. You don't have to worry about trying to find food. You don't have to worry about, cowering under shelter to avoid the rain or the heat. We have all the luxury and the time to devote to spiritual endeavors. We don't have to constantly be thinking about where the next meal is going to come from. We have all our faculties. We have met the Dharma, we have met the teachings. And not just the teachings, we have met the authentic lineage, all the way from the Buddha's time to His Holiness and Rinpoche, Geshe-la. And so when you combine all those things, it's incredibly rare and precious what we have. Kind of like that story of the man who went far and wide in search of gold, but didn't realize that under the mud floor of his hut, there was a pot of gold just hidden there. So we have this life that we take for granted. But it's rare, like, the story of the turtle that comes up from the ocean once every 100 years to take a breath and, sticking its head through a little round buoy or whatever, not buoy, but round life preserver-like thing. So the chances of it sticking its head through that thing in that vast ocean as it's bobbing, here and there, that's how rare us having a human life with all the conditions. Meeting the teachings, meeting qualified teachers, it's incredibly rare. We don't even have to, if the turtle analogy doesn't, sometimes doesn't ring true for us because of our obstructed rational minds. You just have to think about only, there are 6 billion human beings in the world. There's probably 6 billion and insects, animals, whatever, mites, just within an acre of where I'm sitting or where you're sitting. Maybe not even that, half an acre, quarter of an acre. So there are countless beings that we can see, and then there's countless beings we can't see. So if we add them all up, and there's 6 billion humans, it's an incredibly tiny probability of being born as a human. And we're not even talking all the 6 billion humans having all the fortunes and freedoms. So if you count that, then probably a few 100,000 humans in this world probably have all the fortunes and freedoms. And we have this life, precious human life, rebirth. At this moment, after countless eons of wandering in the lower realms, or even the God realms, but the human realm is the best, has all the best conditions to make progress in the Dharma, even more than the God realms. And of course, all the animal realms and the hell realms and the hungry ghost realms and the all the 6 realms. So we have wandered in samsara, all these many lives, and finally we have made it here with our precious human life. And all because we have created merit. And all that merit has come into fruition in this life. Created countless amounts of merit, which is needed to create this human life. And it says that for every tiny amount of merit we create is because of the kindness of a virtuous friend, a spiritual teacher. In all our lives in the past, we have met some spiritual teacher here, some spiritual teacher there, created merit because we were an ant on the Buddha's foot. So it's really the kindness of the teachers that we have, whatever little progress we have made, is only because of the kindness of the teachers. And now we have this human life. We've met qualified teachers like His Holiness, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, great Buddhas like them, and Geshe-la, and whatever other teachers we follow. Teachers from whom we have taken the 8 Mahayana precepts, teachers from whom we have taken vows, any of the vows, teachers from whom we have gotten teachings, so if we met these qualified teachers, if you remember what it takes to be a qualified teacher, it's incredible. If you remember, the teacher has 10 qualities. So it has to be subdued with pure ethical behavior. His mind has to be calm because from his pure behavior. His mind has to be pacified through his practices of concentration. His mind has to be very pacified through at least inferential understanding, special insight. He has to have great knowledge of the scriptures. So that he can explain, or she can explain the Dharma to us clearly and authentically, following exactly what the Buddha said. He or she has to have more knowledge or has more realizations than the students. He has to be eloquent. In other words, when he speaks clearly and people understand him. He's articulate, he's understandable, he's accessible, all those things. He's diligent, that whenever someone, a student or anyone needs help, he gets up like Dara and immediately offers help. He never gets disheartened, even though he has to keep repeating over and over again the same advice and the same teachings, because we, the students, with our ordinary minds, can't seem to grasp it. So we have to hear it over and over and over again. He doesn't get disheartened when we don't follow his advice, when we do the wrong things. He still continues to help us. And finally, he has great, great compassion. That he understands that we, the students, have been going through these countless eons of rebirths, and finally we have this life. He does his absolute utmost to make us, kicking and screaming, going towards a path to enlightenment. Because he feels such great compassion for us. He continuously is striving for our benefit. So if you think about those qualities, how many people can we say have those qualities? And yet we have met teachers like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who is always, he spends all day and all night advising students, writing letters to them, replying to their troubles, giving them guidance, spending all the energy towards the center so that the Dharma can reach as many students as possible, building great stupas, and so that it can bring the most benefit to the world. So we have met these teachers, and they are in front of us. So we are incredibly, incredibly fortunate. So it's really, we would really be doing us a disservice if we didn't follow their advice and we follow them. It's like that, the story of the poor beggar who finally gets a piece of gold, and he doesn't realize it and throws it into the river. That's what we would do with our lives, if we spent our lives without having followed the teacher in front of us, followed their advice and followed their guidance. So let's rejoice. Not only do we have this human life, we have met such teachers. We have incredible fortune to have met such teachers. We rejoice in all their efforts. We rejoice in our efforts to do what little we can to make progress in this life. And that we continue, and we pray that we continue to meet them in all future lives, so that we can continually make progress until we can reach our ultimate goal, to bring benefit, the ultimate benefit to all beings. So with that, we can come back to the present when you're ready. So that was kind of a review for Steve, who couldn't join us last time, of the qualities of a teacher, because that's mainly what we discussed last time. I don't know, Nancy and Steve, do you know about the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand book? Do you know about that? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I have an old copy. I mean, it's back, from 30 years ago when they still had it in hardcover. But yeah, they have a newer reprint now. So
where can you get it? I tried to order it on Amazon and it said it was out of stock or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand?
Yeah.
You can certainly get it from Wisdom Publications.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't they the ones who published it? Yes. So you can try Wisdom Public. I think if you go to wisdomexperience.org, that's their website. So you can get it from them, but you can get it used. I'm sure there's lots of them available used. There is also, I'll tell you, there is also another um, I like a different edition. It's called Liberation in Our Hands. And it's actually in 3 volumes. It's basically the exact same, another translation of the exact same Pabongka Rinpoche text. But the beauty of this text is that it has tons of footnotes. So whenever you need an explanation of the 7 of this or the 8 of that and blah, 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 it's right there. You don't have to think, you don't have to look it up, you don't have to, blah, etc. So anyway, so I like...
It's the same exact, except...
Exact same Pabongka Rinpoche, his teachings from 1923, I guess it was, and so it's the same exact text, root text from Tibetan, but a different translation. And this is an older translation that came out in the 80s. And then the Liberation in the Palm of Our Hands came out in the early 90s.
Oh.
So like that. But it's a wonderful, I personally like it better, but it's 3 volumes. You can get it in paperback. It's not that difficult to find, I don't think. So anyway. So what I was going to, so if you get a chance, Steve, or the other thing and I mentioned to Nancy last time, is an amazing text by Lama Zopa Rinpoche called The Heart of the Path. And it's all about guru devotion, right? And it's called Heart of the Path because, as it says in Pabongka Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of Our Hands, that guru devotion is the root of all our progress, right? So without it, we can't make any progress. I mean, we can make some progress, but it's limited and it's not very quick. So the guru devotion is the heart of the path, and that's why it's called the heart of the path. But anyway, so those 2 texts, and you can look up the qualities of the guru and how to find a guru, with those qualities, And so Nancy, did you have any questions? Or Steve, you had any questions from last time? Okay, well, we can go. Oh, sorry, Steve, you were going to say something?
Yeah, we talked about this a little the other day, but, I've been reading, there's a Lamrim version now that Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe put together. And a lot of it focuses, at least the first third of it, on guru devotion. And the question that I have is, I've been immersing myself in the practice for probably almost the last year, but the issue about finding the guru is a difficult one. And it feels like, well, if I'm not certain about guru, or, I have teachers I like, but I'm not quite sure how to get to the guru devotion part. It almost seems like, well, what do I do then?
Okay, well, there's good news. Well, they say that gurus don't just appear, right? We have to create the conditions for them to appear, right? So one of the reasons that Rinpoche, I don't know exactly which book you're talking about, but I can totally understand the first third of the book being on guru devotion, is because if you look at the Lamrim text, Liberation on Our Hands, about the first third is on preliminary practice on the 7-limb prayer and blah, blah, and guru devotion, And the reason they have it in the beginning and the reason they spend so much time on it is because even if we don't think that we have met a guru, if we do those practices, if we make the effort to, just have a small altar and have His Holiness's picture that my altar, I have various things, but you don't need a big altar. You just have a small altar with His Holiness's picture and a stupa and a scripture that explains in the Rinpoche, Pabongka Rinpoche's text, and doing the 7-limb prayer and doing those practices, you're creating the conditions, right, to meet the guru. I mean, that's really what it's about, right? It's about accumulating the merit, creating the conditions, and ripen, our heart being soft, so that we can, when the guru appears, we can, take the essence of what he or she is saying, right? And that's really the important thing. I think people stress out too much about, it's true. It stresses so much about the guru and so forth and so on. People worry, oh my God, and this is a very common question, and the answer is that we just have to continue to do the practices and make offerings to the guru, like the water bowl offerings and so forth and so on, and do the meditations, right? Because that's what's creating the conditions in our mind stream for the gurus to appear, right? And they will. I mean, it's true. That's how it happened with me, for example, right? I mean, I spent probably 10 years studying the Dharma. No, maybe not 10 years, 8 years, 9 years, and I was really kind of feeling discouraged, but I kept going, right? And suddenly one day I get this email, I lived in California at the time, from Vajrapani Institute saying, we're going to have this weekly Lamrim class by this great teacher. Why don't you come? Right? And just out of the blue, right? And I've been making prayers. Please, may I meet a guru, blah, blah, qualified guru, et cetera, right? And then it happened, right? And that it just happened, right? And I'm not, I don't know how these things work, but I just know from my side, it's really from our side. All this stuff happens from our side, right? It's all in our own minds, right? The guru is not really, the guru can only make give it the teachings, make the effort, give the advice, but everything else is from our side, right? If we don't see him as a guru, even if he appears in front of us, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever, right? So we have to create the conditions in our mind stream, ripen, the soil, have a fertile soil so that when the guru appears, the teachings actually, take hold, right?
And I guess, I feel like I've met two amazing teachers, Venerable Rabina and Geshe-la, but I'm not sure if I've been doing this long enough to say definitively, are they my gurus or not? It just is not an easy thing. And I want to try to kind of put it off to the side and just do the practices like you said.
Right. It's, right, exactly. I mean, it will come, the realization will come, when it comes, maybe one of them you realize is your guru, right? Maybe you find that you meet someone else who actually becomes your guru. One doesn't know, right? And but instead of, but what I would suggest is study those sections about the qualities of the guru. The more we meditate about the qualities of the guru, the more we see what the qualities of the guru are, whether our gurus meet those qualities. Are we, today we'll talk about the qualities of a disciple. Do we satisfy the qualities of the disciple, right? I mean, as I said, the guru just doesn't appear. The disciple has to be ready for the guru, otherwise there's no point, right? Yeah.
Is there more than one guru, or do you have, I know, I guess there's the heart guru, the root guru, all of that.
Well,
I don't know.
You can have many, many gurus, right? So, I have probably 5 that I classify, as my main gurus that I think of when I'm doing my main guru puja practice in the mornings. I think about them, and I have some of, their pictures on my altar. But you can have, I know people who have 30 gurus, for example, right? And the point is not that more gurus is good or less gurus is good. It's really about which teachers really make a difference in our spiritual path, right? That's really what it comes down to. If you feel that a teacher's teaching and a teacher's advice has really made a difference then he or she can be thought of as as your guru. And of course, there are some teachers, like they say, okay, who's a root guru versus, I mean, there's some teachers, so Lama Zopa Rinpoche says the root guru is the teacher who, first turns your mind, makes the greatest impact on you, or first turns your mind towards the Dharma, right? And, and different teachers will, use different, different definitions. But the point is that you can have one root guru, two root guru, whatever it is, but it doesn't matter because all the gurus are really, and including the root guru, are really the one, they're one and the same in the Dharmakaya, right? And the enlightened mind, they're no different. None of, they're all, have the same qualities, right? And that's how we have to really think about it, right? We can have one guru that, like, for example, when we do the guru yoga practice, once or twice a month, we have the soga, we have the, the Vajrasattva soga, and we have the Lama Chopa Guru Puja soga, right? So in Lama Chopa Guru Puja or in the Vajrasattva soga offering, when we are meditating on the deity, the guru that we, who is at the heart of the deity, or who we think of, usually is the root guru, right? So that's how it kind of, like, it depends, like if you have a tantric initiation and you're doing the meditation on that deity, then it's usually the guru who gave you the initiation, right? So he's your kind of, so if I'm doing X initiation and Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave me the initiation, then I will see him as the root guru for that practice, right? If I got, let's say I Tara initiation from, Geshe-la, then I would get, think of Geshe-la as my guru in that, but if you get an initiation, you definitely, that person becomes one of your gurus. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, right?
Oh, you be careful from whom you take initiation.
Absolutely. That's why it's very, very important, especially in Tantra. And we'll talk about that, especially in Tantra, more than Sutra, especially in Tantra, it's very, very important to really inspect the teacher and make sure that he or she is qualified, because you're making, when one takes an initiation, one is making a relationship with that teacher for the rest of our, not just life, but all our future lives, right? And so it's very important, and we'll talk about, later, next, couple of sessions from now, about what to do if one finds that, one, that maybe one's teacher, is not as ethically correct, or maybe there's some, so what to do, right? So there's things one can do. But in any case, Tantra makes it very, very complicated, right? So that's why it's much better to stay on the sutra path until one is ready. I personally, I checked with my guru before I got my first initiation, and I asked, am I ready, do you think? And he said, no, I think I would wait. And I wait, it was 15 years probably before I got my first initiation, So one has, so one has to know, one knows when one is ready. It's just a matter of, because without the sutra path, one can make progress on the tantra path anyway. I mean, that's a known, that's a given, right? So it's not like it's wasted effort. I mean, people think, oh, tantra, I'm going to get enlightened in one lifetime. Well, yes, you will, if you've spent countless eons accumulating merit and purifying obstacles in the sutra path. Finally you will do it in one lifetime.
So Shankar, I have a question. What initiations are there, assuming that you make progress and you? So I mean, I know there are bodhisattva vows. There's tantric.
Right. So those are vows that one takes as part of an initiation. Right. Okay. So So, you can take bodhisattva vows separately from tantric vows, but if you're taking tantric vows, then bodhisattva vows are also included in it, right? So in other words, it's like, as you go up the levels, right, from sutra, the sutra, Hinayana, Mahayana, and then the Vajrayana, right? So each of them builds on the other, right? So the Vajrayana, which is the Tantra, highest yoga Tantra, that will include the bodhisattva vows. When you take the tantric vows, that also includes the bodhisattva vows. So from a vows level, there's three types of vows. There's the pratimoksha vows, the individual liberation vows, which is what the lay vows are. Then there's the bodhisattva vows, and then there's the tantric vows, right? But then there's many different, one takes the same tantric vows for all the different tantras. I mean, highest yoga tantras. I'm not talking about the lower three tantras here, but because the highest yoga tantra is really in Tibetan Buddhism is the one that's followed, mostly. So the vows are all pretty much this, for all the tantras, they're the same. But for each tantra, there might be some specific things commitments that one has to do, right? So there's slight differences, but the vows are pretty much all the same. You don't have to take the same bodhisattva vows and the same tantric vows. So if you take one initiation and one deity in highest yoga tantra, then essentially you have the same tantric vows for all the deities, But until you have the initiation, if you're in highest yoga tantra, until you have the initiation, you can't really practice the tantra, right? Mm-hmm. So in other words, if you get initiation in Yamantaka and you have the tantric vows, yes, you can then, do, Heruka Vajrasattva practice because you have the tantric vows, but, I'm sorry, let me go back up. You have the tantric vows as part of the Yamantaka initiation, but you can't, for example, practice a chakra samhara or, some other deity, highest yoga tantra deity, because you haven't had the initiation of that, right? So that's kind of how it works. But when you take an initiation from a teacher, that teacher becomes your guru. He becomes one of your gurus. He doesn't need to become your root guru, but he becomes one of your gurus automatically. Mm-hmm. And Rinpoche says that's also true for if somebody gives you bodhisattva vows and if somebody gives you pratimoksha vows. Okay. And Rinpoche, I was just reading his book today, and Rinpoche says also that if you take the 8 Mahayana precepts, like for example, on Precepts Day from someone, then that person also becomes one of your gurus. Okay. So you can see how the gurus can add up. Okay. So if you read the Lamrim, there is a discussion between two geshes about should one have a few gurus, like one geshe had 5 gurus, another geshe had like 30 gurus or 40 gurus, something like that. And they were having a discussion. Is it better to have a few gurus or is it better to have many gurus? Right? And they both agreed that it's really about the where the student is in his or her progress, right? So they said that in the beginning, for a beginner, it's best to have few gurus. Okay, but then as one becomes, one has ripened, then you can have as many gurus as you like because you have the discrimination. Because one of the problems with having too many gurus to begin with is that sometimes if you ask the same question to 2 different gurus, you'll get 2 different pieces of advice. Okay, and sometimes it can be conflicting advice. And so for a beginner, that can be kind of very, confusing. Okay, what do I do, right? And so the best thing to do in the beginning is to just be careful, inspect the gurus, and have a few gurus, and maybe one guru to whom one goes for clear advice. I mean, I only ask Rinpoche and one other teacher of mine, right, for advice, because I don't want to, well, firstly, all the other teachers have either passed away or they're not as accessible, and so forth and so on, right? So, so that's one reason. So anyway, so that's what the two geshes, the discussion was about whether to have too many or too little. Neither is wrong, basically. It's whatever works for one, right? I don't know. That was a long-winded answer to. Did I explain? Is it clear? Like the root guru and the hard guru and the root guru, I think they're the same. I don't know if there's hard guru. There's. I don't think there's any difference with the hard. The people just. It's just a term people use. Like the one who's closest to one's heart. That's basically the root guru. And the gurus, and to be absolutely clear, like some days I will think about one particular guru when I'm doing my practice, another day and I'll do another, practice when I practice. Sometimes, if you're in the retreat and you're doing the calling the guru from afar, or the praises to the guru, the lineage, praises to, prayers to the lineage lamas and so forth and so on. Then one can cycle through all the gurus. You can just think about all the gurus that you have, right? And so, so that's how one way, the gurus don't care. They're all the same in the Dharmakaya, right? So they don't care if you're, meditating on another guru today and another guru tomorrow, and then, it doesn't matter, right? Because all of them have the same qualities. It's again from our side, right? It's really from our side, our mind stream, that needs to see them as such. And then it doesn't make any difference. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else about the guru? And okay, if not, I'll mention because, so we talked about the qualities of the guru, and Steve, if you get a chance, and Nancy too, it's good to read that section in the Lam Rim, the liberation in our hand. When I say Lam Rim, I mean the liberation text, right? About the qualities of the guru. It's really helpful to just meditate on that, and just, I remember Venerable Rene Fusi, one of my gurus, he said that, every morning, he said, one should think about one's guru, his kindness, and his qualities, So it's really important every morning to spend just a short amount of time just to think about, our root guru, one of our gurus, or all of our gurus, and think about their qualities, think about their kindness, especially in helping us, right? And guiding us and giving us the vows and giving us initiations and all the different ways that guide us and help us, right? So think about their qualities and that creates more, more merit, it says, than making offerings to the countless Buddhas and all the eons and so forth and so on, right? Just that one thought. So that's important. So anyway, so it's good to meditate on the, spend a week or whatever, just spend 10 minutes in the morning just meditating on the 10 qualities of the guru and how those qualities, make a difference in our lives, and the gurus that we do know. Okay. So the next topic it talks about is the characteristic of the student who relies on the teacher, and it says that depends on who's counting, but there's 4 or 6, etc. But the main ones are, it says first, they should have an honest nature. In other words, they should not be devious, cynical, or constantly trying to find faults with one's teacher, right? And that's actually important, because you'll be surprised, or I'm surprised certainly, how often in a teaching, some thought will come to my mind, like, why is he saying this again, right? Or hasn't he, or he's coughing too much, or why does he have to keep coughing? Or, etc. Right? I mean, and those are basically, finding, the thing to remember is, and we'll talk about this, is that we don't, the reason we have a guru in a human form is because we don't have the merit to see the Buddha, right? So the guru is the Buddha's representative in this life, and we'll talk about this the next class, how to see that, why to see and how to see the guru as the Buddha. And that's actually a very key concept in the Mahayana path. They don't talk about it so much in the Theravadan tradition. I mean, they respect their gurus, definitely, but they don't think of them as the Buddha, right? But in the Vajrayana and the Mahayana, that's a very distinguishing feature, right? And if we are able to see him or her as the Buddha, we make much, much faster progress, And that's why it's important to think of their qualities and why we have met them in their current form. And of course, if they're in human form, they're going to have human frailties, right? Human qualities. They're going to cough. They're going to have tics. They're going to, have stroke and, be paralyzed on one side, or all these different things. But we have to see how those are really lessons for us, right? To watch our minds to see how we are really reacting to the guru. Are we being truly honest in our nature, right? So that's one thing. Second thing, it said the disciples should possess the wisdom to distinguish good from bad. And that's important because that's how we know whether a teacher's advice should we follow or shouldn't we follow, right? Because, it says in the teachings is just because a teacher says X does not mean that we have to do X, right? We have to use our judgment and see if it concords with the teachings, right? If it doesn't, then we don't do it, or we set it aside. Maybe at our current state of progress, we don't have the discrimination yet. So we don't have to throw it out outright. We can just say, okay, I'll put it aside for now, right? But we need to have the discrimination, right? And I think people get in trouble when they see a guru and and they basically, I've seen cases where they think of them like almost like a god, right? And they're, but they are God in a sense, like they are the representative of the Buddha in this world, right? They're a higher being than us. But it also doesn't mean that we basically, just because they say jump off a cliff, that we jump off a cliff, right? I mean, that's just we have to use discrimination, and it's not easy. And I've been in this situation myself, and maybe if it comes up, I'll talk about it later. But one has to know whether or not one should continue to follow a guru, or one should practice what the advice is. So that's why it says possess the wisdom to good from bad. Also, it means that possess the wisdom of right from wrong, right? Right from wrong in one's own actions, right? Because, otherwise we're not going to make progress, right? So, we have to know what's correct and what's not according to the teachings. So we are ethically correct. Of course, they should have strong interest in studying the teachings, right? Now Lama Tsongkhapa mentions more. He says that a student should not be. Also, when he says honest nature, he says that the student should also not be partial or prejudiced. Right. So I like this book. I'm just reading from this book called Geshe Sopa's It's a wonderful text. Geshe Sopa passed away like maybe 5 years ago. He was an amazing contemporary teacher. But anyway, so he quotes Lama Tsongkhapa, and he says that you will not seek, nor will you understand the meaning of a good teacher's excellent explanations if you are partial or if you're prejudiced, right? Because if you come in with preconceived notions, it doesn't matter what the guru tells us, right? We are not going to receive it. We're not going to receive the advice. Our mind is not ready, in other words, right? Our heart isn't soft, as Venerable Rene says. So when the mind is obscured by partiality, it can never realize a truth. And without realizing the truth, you can never obtain the peace of emancipation. So when it says that when one goes to teachings, the first thing to do is, maybe you guys have heard this already, is to check one's mind about the three vases. Have you heard of that? Pots, 3 pots also. The 3 pots are, so to check our minds, whether or not our minds are a pot with a hole in it. In other words, you're pouring water into it, nothing stays, it just goes out the bottom. So it's one ear out the other, right? That's one. Pot that is already filled with our partialities and prejudices, right? And then the pot that is, wait a minute, what? How come I'm forgetting? The hole filled.
Is it the one upside down?
Thank you. Yes, the one upside down. So basically our mind is closed, right? You can pour as much water as you like on it. So that's the kind of thing we have to think about. When we think about whether the disciple, are we impartial, right? How our minds in any of those pots? Because if it's any of those pots, then no, we're not impartial, right? So he says, you must have the wisdom that can distinguish the good from the bad. You must be able to make correct judgments in order to reach an accurate understanding after you listen to the teachings. So that's another way to look at that. With this capacity, you'll be able to reject senseless or incorrect explanations and take up the essence of the true teachings, right? Because, there are lots of gurus, from whom we take teachings, and maybe in their human form, they make a mistake, right? In some quote from a scripture or something like that, right? So we have to then check and see if it's, what is the right thing, right? Sometimes they make mistakes because they've taken human form, right? Their brain isn't working like the way, an enlightened mind, enlightened being's brain, like the Buddha, historical Buddha was an enlightened being who took the human form and had a brain, right? So like his brain might have worked, right? So like that, we have to be able to distinguish good from bad. And then it says, there's a couple of other teachers, like Chandrakirti has added, that a student should have respect for the Dharma teaching and the teacher, right? So if we don't have respect for the Dharma teacher, that's obvious, right? If we don't see him as someone who has, like one of the 2 qualities where they have great scriptural knowledge and who have more knowledge than the student, the student, right? Then, so often we go into teaching, I have gone into teachings and just think, oh yeah, I already know this, right? I studied this in the Lam Rim text, I know this already, right? I don't need to listen to it, right? That's not respect for the teachings or the teacher for that matter, right? And when I check up on my mind, when I see that my mind is like that, and I cut that behavior, right? I find that even this nth time that I'm hearing it from that teacher, I actually get something out of it, it's like, I mean, if you hear Rinpoche, you go to one teaching, 10 teachings, 100 teachings, 1,000 teachings, you'll hear about guru devotion, right? I mean, you will hear about guru devotion. If he's giving you an initiation, for example, 3/4 or 7/8 of the time is going to be spent on guru devotion, right? And it's because, it's the heart of the path. And, he really, he knows that's what the students need to hear, right? Even though we've heard it a billion times from him probably, and from others, we still don't get it, and the realization, we don't have the realization. I mean, we have it intellectually, but we don't have it, we have it. Geshe Gelek from North Carolina says, it's in our hard drive up here, but it's not here, and we have it intellectually, but we don't have it in our heart because, because when one has those kind of thoughts about the closed pot and so, those are indications that we have yet more progress to make, So
Shankar, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm having a hard time leaving because I'm supposed to go to the other session now.
Okay.
But I'm really enjoying this tremendously. Okay. I'm getting a lot out of it.
Okay, feel free. You can watch the YouTube video.
That's what I'll do. And then if it's okay with you, I'll tune in again for the first hour next time.
Sure.
But I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay. See you next time.
Okay.
Bye. So anyway, so we have it intellectually, but we don't have it in our heart, right? So we should have respect for the Dharma and the teacher. And then Chandrakirti says, the student should pay close attention. So in other words, in summary, Chandrakirti says the student should be impartial. So like we talked about that, intelligence, who can, distinguish good from bad, enthusiastic, so he has enthusiasm for the teachings, respectful for the teacher and the teaching, and attentive, right? Should pay close attention. So that's the 5 things that he talks about. And then Tsongkhapa also describes a student with 4 qualities: sincere interest in the Dharma, paying close attention while listening, having great respect for the teacher and the Dharma, and casting away faulty teachings while adhering to good explanations. So this basically repeating the same thing Chandrakirti had mentioned, but in a different way. So then Geshe Sopa says, you should examine yourself, asking, do I have all the attributes that would make me suitable to be guided by a guru? If you find that you possess the complete set, you should rejoice. If you find that some of them are lacking, you should make an effort to complete them right now before your life is over. You need to understand the attributes of a qualified student, because if you don't know what they are, you will not be able to examine your own capacity. Without that self-examination, you will fail to achieve the great purpose. So that's really, and that's why, that's what I was telling when Steve asked that question, is that it really, it's not enough just to make prayers, may I meet the perfect, pure guru, et cetera, et cetera. We have to examine our minds and see, okay, are we ready to receive a guru, and the, and the more, and it's true, the more, but the more prayers one does, like Lama Tsongkhapa's principal aspects of the path, or, the calling the Lama from afar, it's a beautiful poem, it's in our prayer book, that PMT Essential Buddhist Prayers. It's also in the back of the Heart of the Path book, I noticed, the Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book. He has a long one and the short one as well. It's a beautiful beautiful. It brings tears to my eyes when I actually, you know, I don't do it very often, but really it's just amazingly wonderful. And, you know, doing those prayers really makes, you know, just brings those blessings, you know, of the gurus who are yet to come. You know, gurus that we have, maybe, and if we don't, then the gurus who are yet to come. And that's how we create the conditions. You know, we have to have that faith. You know, if we believe in karma, if we believe in, you know, the preciousness of this life, then that's a natural extension of, you know, of if we just, if then it's a logical, you know, conclusion from that is to create the softness in our heart to receive the guru when they do appear. Otherwise, you know, there was this, what is that? I can't remember the story now. There's a story of, well, there are many stories, but the one that I know of, you know, of someone meeting a guru, but, I know. Here's an example, perfect example. So, I think most people would have probably agree, at least in our tradition, that His Holiness the Dalai Lama is as close to a Buddha as they come, right? And he is a Buddha. I think of him as a Buddha, but, you know, so he lives in Dharamshala. He has his temple there, his residence and so I remember going, you know, the first time I went to Dharamshala was 1995, I think. Deirdre and I were making a pilgrimage. And back then, actually, you could meet His Holiness. So we did, you know, but it was easy. Nowadays, I think with the security and stuff, you can't do that anymore. But anyway, so, you know, so he's there. There are all these Western students there, all these Tibetan students who see him as a Buddha, right? But they're all, and surrounding Dharamshala, MacLeod-Gunj, and down the hill, there are all these Indians who live there. They couldn't be bothered, right? I shouldn't say that because that's actually, that's not a nice way of saying it. You know, that's not the correct. But they don't see him as the teacher, right? So they're not his guru. I mean, they're not getting the blessings from him, even though they're living right next door to him, right? And that's really, you know, their minds aren't, you know, soft, you know. Hopefully they've met other gurus in their own tradition, right? You know, so hopefully they're making progress, you know. But at least, you know, the qualified teacher that we see and the blessings that one can get from him, they're not getting, right? Because they don't see him as a guru. You know, and it's very interesting. Last time I was in India, and in Dharamshala rather, was maybe 10 years ago, something like that. It had changed totally, you know, like in 20 years, it totally changed. I mean, the place was just, I mean, I could almost not recognize it. And bumper to bumper traffic where there used to be no cars at all, you know. And there are all these, and it's become because of the middle class in India having so much more money and cars and so forth and so on. So Dharamshala is kind of like a weekend getaway, you know. So it's like, it's a long ride. It's like a 12-hour car ride, but you can do it, you know. So you have all these, so there are all these SUVs that are just packing. And, you know, I actually, believe it or not, I actually had to, we had our kids with, you know, they were like 12 and 10 or something like that. We actually had to walk over bumpers because the cars were so close to each other. The bumper to bumper really was literally bumper to bumper. You couldn't step between the bumpers, right? And anyway, so they're all there, and they're going, you know, they're going to His Holiness, you know, His Holiness's gompa was open, right? And so they're walking in, taking pictures, all this other stuff, but they're totally just, you know, they're just tourists, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with being tourists, right? But again, you know, their minds are not ready to meet His Holiness, even though he might have been like 100 feet from them, you know, I don't know, but, you know, so like that, you know, so we have to create the causes to meet our gurus. And you know, as it says, if we create the causes, they will come. You know, the other way that I always thought that makes a lot of sense, and I don't remember who first said this in a teaching, is, you know, the as we'll see later, if one really thinks about it, the guru is the Buddha. You know, the guru is certainly the Buddha's representative, you know, in this world, but he can also be seen as the Buddha by us, his disciples. And if you see the guru as a Buddha, and you know that the Buddha has, you know, all the Buddhas, you know, one of the quality characteristics of being a Buddha is that they have taken a vow that whenever someone needs help, they spontaneously help, right? They have spontaneous, you know, arising compassion, right? So it doesn't matter if somebody needs help and they know they can help, they will immediately manifest in some form to provide help to that being, right? So if we really make, my teacher said, if we really make prayers to meet the guru, to receive advice from him, and create the condition, he doesn't have a choice. The Buddha doesn't have a choice but not to appear, a choice but to appear, right? I mean, it's a very interesting, like I said, like a light bulb went off on my head, right? I mean, if His Holiness has made a vow, I mean, if the Buddha has made Chenrezig has made a vow to help all beings, then if I've created the cause to meet someone like His Holiness, a manifestation of Chenrezig doesn't have a choice. He will be there, right? So it was very interesting. So yeah, so like that, if we truly make an effort to meet our gurus, we will meet them because they will appear. Anyway, did you have any questions or comments about the qualities of a disciple? I talked a lot.
No, that's good. When you were talking about the qualities of the guru, it sounded like they have to be realized. And I don't know if that's the same as being enlightened, or how would I know if somebody's realized? You know, are they my teacher, or is a teacher and a guru the same? Or do you have teachers and then there are gurus?
So, well, a teacher, you know, okay. So like Tibetans, for example, consider their alphabet, the person who teaches them the alphabet, as one of their gurus. Okay, so he is a teacher, that teacher is one of their gurus. Now this question was given to Rinpoche, and he said, Lama Yeshe, he follows what Lama Yeshe, his guru, said, but that really the teacher is your guru if his advice is being used to make progress in the Dharma, to make spiritual progress, right? For the Tibetans, the alphabet, they're learning the alphabet so that they can read the scripture, so that they can make, you know, so that's why the alphabet teacher is their guru, right? They consider them the guru. But for us Westerners, that's not necessarily the case. Now, if our teacher, you know, if we were Catholic and our teacher taught us Latin because, you know, he wanted to say mass, and, you know, so maybe that person would be our guru, right? But at least, you know, for most of us, that's not the case. You know, we're learning English and so forth and so on, right? So there is a way to distinguish a teacher from a guru, right? You can also, like, for example, you know, I have gone to teachings by various teachers, right? But from my side, I have not made that guru-disciple relationship, right? So they're still my teacher, but they're not my guru, right? So one has to in meditation or when we're doing it, the real, I guess the way to think about it is, the way I think about it is, when we're doing our practices, who are the teachers who appear to us, right? In our mind stream, right? When we're making devotional prayers, who appears to us? Most likely, the ones who appear to us are our gurus, with whom we have made that connection, right? So we are the ones who have to make that label, guru, and it used to be back in the, like in the old days before, Buddhism came to the West. I mean, a student had to go up to the, you make offering, you travel for many miles and you bring offerings to the guru, you put it at his feet, and then you ask, can I get teachings from you, or will you become my guru? And he might say no, right? And you keep asking and blah, blah, all that stuff, right? But I mean, nowadays, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. So nowadays we don't have to do that, right? Because the Dharma is so available, right? I mean, seriously, back during the days of India and Tibet, I mean, the Dharma was not available, right? There were no books. Well, there were books you couldn't read, right? I mean, it's only a few people who learned to read. And, there weren't that many teachers. It was very difficult to go from one village to the next, so you couldn't just travel and just go see teachers. I mean, we have it so much easier now, right? We have all these texts, we have video. I mean, and then we have videos and now Zoom and all this stuff, right? So we don't have to ask for someone to become our guru anymore, but we still have to, in our own minds, make a decision whether or not we see them as our guru, right? So that's the distinction, kind of how I think about it between a teacher and a guru. And then with a guru, though, of course, is that the difference is when a guru gives advice, it should make a difference in our heart, that, in such a way that we want to follow that advice, automatically, right? We may not necessarily do that if it's just someone who's a teacher. Now, sometimes you can see someone as a teacher, someone as a guru, even though they may not have contributed to, the Buddhist path, right? So for example, Venerable Rene, who is a Swiss monk, right? Venerable Rene Fusi, he grew up Catholic, and he thinks of his first catechism teacher, his first priest, as one of his gurus, because he really turned his mind towards a spiritual path. Now, that's not the spiritual path he follows anymore, but still, he made his mind ripe to meet Lama Yeshe and to follow his advice, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and follow his advice, and all the great masters in the Buddhist path, and so forth and so on, right? So one doesn't have to be a Buddhist teacher for one to, to be a guru, to be a guru. So I think he thinks of his priest like he has a bunch, number of teachers, and I think he thinks of his priest as one of them when he does his practices and all that stuff. And I don't know if his priest is still alive, but yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. So the next thing it talks about is, now that we know what are the qualities. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't answer one part of your question. How do you know he's realized? Right? And the short answer is you don't really, right? Well, I'm sorry.
Well, because it seems like they don't come out and say, well,
No. I mean,
well,
if he or she comes out and says it, you guarantee that he or she is not realized. I mean, I think that much is pretty clear, Yeah. I mean, unless you have, one always has to qualify that one, unless, you know, you're doing a retreat with him and in the middle of a practice, he or she says something that they're not going to say, I'm a realized being, I'm a Buddha, whatever it is. But they may say something that gives an indication that they probably are, you know? So like that, and they're doing that on, you know, they're not just saying it, the slip of the tongue, they're saying it for a particular reason. So in that way, one can know, right? One can also know, you know, one doesn't know in a definitive way. Let me put it that way. Unless the teacher says so or gives an indication, you know, at some, you know, under some very rare conditions. But most of the time one can tell by, well, first of all, you know, if you're around him or her long enough, you get a sense. I mean, maybe not definitively that he or she is realized. And by realized, by the way, I mean, like, certainly you can tell if someone has an inferential understanding of reality, of emptiness and so forth and so on, right? So special insight, when he talks about subdued, pacified, subdued, pacified, and highly, subdued, pacified, and highly pacified, right? So the highly pacified there is the special, you know, the special insight section, right? Which is, you know, the pacified is concentration, pacified is calm abiding, and then highly pacified is special insight, right? So samatha and vipassana. So that's an inferential understanding of emptiness, right? Which is also pretty advanced, right? So that one can get a pretty decent understanding by his teaching or her. By the way, when I say his, I also mean her, right? But, you know, I try to, you know, be neutral, but still. So by his or her teachings, one can tell, and especially if one is in a retreat with the person, during the meditations, you can tell, because they're guiding you in the meditation in such a way that a person who doesn't have special insight would be able to, right? They tell you things, or they tell you, you know, when you ask for advice, they tell you, this is what you should do, this is the direction to go, this is the pitfall, this is what you shouldn't do. And you can tell if someone has an inferential understanding, inferential special insight or not, okay? So that one is not so hard. Now, then it talks about, you know, the final quality, which is you know, understands emptiness, right? So that's now a direct perception of emptiness, right? So he must be at least an Arya, you know, like path of, you know, the path, you know, the 5 paths, the path of seeing. So he must be at least in the path of seeing to understand emptiness, to have a direct perception of emptiness. That is harder to tell. However, again, you get indications. You will hear, his disciples can tell you certain experiences they may have had, you know, when they've been in a retreat or in teachings with the teacher, with the guru. That's one way. You can tell by certain, you know, you get indications by certain, like, kind of clairvoyant things, you know, like, you know, so that also happens. So there are ways, you know, again, one has to see him as, well, you know, if one doesn't see him as a guru, then one doesn't have enough faith. Even if they disappear in front of you, you're still gonna say it's coincidence. Oh, what? Not coincidence, but it's just, you know, magic trick, whatever, right? I mean, so his clairvoyance is not gonna make any difference to you, right? So one's mind has to be ripe enough to understand these things, right? Here's an example I'll tell you of how, you know, like, one of my gurus he's passed away now. 15 years ago, maybe 10, 15. Venerable Amy Miller used to be, at the end of his life, what used to be his kind of his attendant. Kirti Sanchab Rinpoche, a great high, great being, you know, and one of his personal practices was Kala Chakra, you know, the Kala Chakra deity of, you know, the practice of the deity Kala Chakra. And I have heard from two different independent sources, like two students who were there at a Kala Chakra retreat with Kirti Sanchab Rinpoche. And you know how Kala Chakra has, I don't have a tanka of Kala Chakra, but anyway, you know, it has like many arms, you know, has like not 1,000 arms, not 1,000 arm chin raising, but has many arms. I don't remember. I'm not a Kala Chakra practitioner, so I don't know. I don't remember how many arms there are. But in any case, there are many arms. And so both of the students, so one time they were in retreat, you know, they were doing Kala Chakra initiation retreat with Kirti Sanchab Rinpoche. And during the break, Rinpoche, you know, after he had self-generated and so forth and so on, this was, after all that happened. And during the break, he, was leaving the room, right? And as he was walking out of the room, he walked out sideways. And both of them had enough merit to see that his arms were visible. Because he had so many arms, because he had generated himself as Kala Chakra, that he couldn't go through the door straight. So he went sideways. Okay. So those are the kind of, but you see, their minds are much more ripened than mine is, right? I would not have been able to see those arms even though he went sideways. I would be like, why the hell is he going sideways? Right? Is he like hurt? Is he shuffling? Why they go? But you see, they had done enough practices and ripened their minds enough, and you know, they had a higher enough realizations to be able to see Rinpoche as Kala Chakra, the Buddha, right? And so those are the ways one can know, you know. It's not easy, but it is possible. And so then I talk to the disciples, I talk to the students, and then I say, clearly he is a Buddha. Right? I haven't seen him as a Buddha myself because I don't have the merit, but I know someone who has, right? And it's the same way, you know, if you read the story about Milarepa meeting Manjushri, you know that story, right? You know, where he goes in the, yeah. So like that, you know, the old woman, you know, if you remember, you know, like the old woman in the market sees just the legs of the dog, just a crown. I can't remember. He sees part of the dog. He sees the dog, still the dog, the rabid dog, but then part of it is a Manjushri's crown or this feet or something like that, right? So these students had that kind of realization, you know. So that's how you know. And when you see Lama Zopa Rinpoche and his great compassion, I don't know, you know, you can't but see how he could not be a Buddha. And, you know, it's just, that's how one knows. I don't know, you know. So yeah, so that's how you know whether or not they have direct perception. You know, clairvoyance usually is a pretty good. I mean, although even without direct perception of emptiness at high stages of calm abiding, you can get some clairvoyance, but but that's also a good, like that. So I'm wondering if I should start the how to rely in thought, because that's a big topic on faith, because that leads into how to see the, what do you think? Should I start or should I stop?
How big is
Are you the only one?
Huh? I know.
Are you tired? Is your mind tired?
Not a little bit, yeah.
A little bit?
But if it's a big topic, it may be something Steve would like to start with next week as well.
I'm sorry, repeat that again, please.
If it's a big topic, it might be something that Steve would like to be in on.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's a good point.
As well.
Okay. All right. Because he'll watch this, and then, okay, let's do that. So why don't we, so if you get a chance, and since Steve will be watching it on YouTube, so I'll also speak to him, is that if you are able, during the week, in the morning, spend 10 minutes on the section, just reading and contemplating and meditating, if you can, on the qualities of the guru and the qualities of the disciple. It really makes a big difference. You were on mute. So
on the handouts that are on the website.
There should be there. Let me check real quick while suggested reading. Oh, wait a minute. What happened to the?
Because I got some, but not.
How come the handouts aren't there? Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, you don't have the liberation book, right? Okay.
No.
I'll tell you. Okay. I'll tell you what. I will send you the handouts, and I will send it to Steve as well. Hopefully I have his email. And I'll ask Venerable Dondrup to put it on the website.
Oh, good.
Because it's supposed to be on the website, but it looks like it got missed somehow.
Okay, and if you send it to me, and you should have Steve's email. I have it if you need it, but
yeah, would you mind just sending it to me just in case? I know I have his text, phone number, but I may not have his email.
Okay.
So if you would,
yeah.
Okay, I will send it to you like tonight once I immediately. So anyway, so if you can read that, and let me know if you're having trouble finding either of the liberation texts.
Okay.
Because then I'm sure I can, I can certainly let you borrow mine if you need one,
But I think the second one is good, in our hands.
The one that can come in volumes.
Our hands instead of. You mentioned the second one that was.
The second one, the 3-volume one, is Liberation in Our Hands.
In our hands.
And the other one is Liberation in the Palm of Our Hands. Well, I would say that since FPMT in general suggests getting the Liberation in the Palm of Our Hands text.
Okay.
Just get that. That's fine. And if one day comes where you need something that has a little bit more reference kind of things, then you can get the other, Liberation in Our Hands. So that's fine.
Right. Okay.
The Liberation in Our Hands, you have to get 3 volumes. I mean, although you can, all the Guru devotion stuff is in the first volume, but still, I mean, with the Liberation of the Palm of Our Hands, you get all of it in 1 volume. So that's kind of nice in that way.
All right.
So, and if you can't find it, let me know, and I can certainly, I'm sure I can find it for you.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right. So let's finish with our prayers. Share screen. Adobe Reader. So next time we'll talk about how to rely on the teacher in our, in thought, how to have faith, how to generate faith, how to see how to devote ourselves to the Guru, and so forth and so on. Okay. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in the world, to the incomparable kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And finally, Lamosal, Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for those wanderers in far-off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us and intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request, O Lama, please, please live long. And finally, Geshe Sherab. And as we do this prayer, we can think of all our gurus, so that when we make this prayer, may their lives be long and happy, and continue to guide us in this life and all future lives. So, beloved teacher, leading your students toward wisdom and compassion, explaining through exacting discernment the steps of the graduated path, you are the unequaled guide. Please live a long and stable life. Thank you very much, Nancy. It was wonderful.